Congratulations, guys. If you have made it through to this lesson, the end of the first week of Book-in-a-Month lessons, you are on the road to success. This first week is the hardest stuff. It's where you build that framework, and everything from here on out is just adding to or bulking the framework that you've created during this week. Now, if you recall, when we started out, we talked about how your writing was going to be non-linear. And if you were writing in the way that we learned as kids, you were trying to create that beginning, middle, end, and you might hit a wall. If you were writing that traditional nonfiction way of here's the list of things I need to teach you, once again, you could hit a wall. Or if you don't hit a wall, you still have a boring list. And I promised you that we were going to be able to create in a full circle nonlinear method that was going to give you the opportunity to write all these different pieces as you are inspired to do so. That's what today's lesson is all about. Today, we are going to talk to you about the 12 story building blocks and how to use them to create your storyboard. So if you recall, when we first began this week out, we started by doing the writing from art lesson, in which at the very end, we decided to break up our story into let's identify the junk. And if you recall, we actually worked from the back forward because that's how we jump. So players, who are your players? Now you may have made a list of all sorts of the players in your script, but really I want you now to go back to that list of players that you identified and identify them even further. Give them a subcategory by calling them either a main character or a secondary character. Now, the reason that you want to identify a differentiation between these two categories of players is going to become very clear when we get into that storyboard building. In that mission, I want you to break those up into subcategories as well. You're going to have the calm or the camaraderie. What is this? The calm is that moment in your story, the calm before the storm, when everything is going great, but the mission is not yet resolved. That is your calm before the storm. Oftentimes, that calm before the storm comes in the shape of a camaraderie. The camaraderie is really where you're going to have this bonding moment between your main character and one of the secondary characters. Sometimes it's also that moment when your villain or your antagonist or the nemesis, that negative person that's in your story, reveals the redeeming quality. That's when you get that camaraderie moment, when you're warmed emotionally by a connection with one of the characters. I'm going to come back to magic moment. The event or goal is actually that objective of your whole story. Whether that is something that the character needs to succeed on internally, overcome a fear, find contentment or peace, find joy. All of those things are internal goals, but then sometimes you might have a very external goal. Find the ring, solve the quest, get the job, succeed on a dream and make that come true. That's what your event or goal, that should be revealed. Resolution and conclusion. They sound similar, but they're actually different. This is a really simple description on how they're different. Resolution, it just sounds like resolve. Resolution means that you have resolved the event or goal that was revealed in your story. Conclusion is tying up the loose ends. For instance, let me get all Disney on you. The resolution, we won the band concert. It's awesome. It was this contest. We win. It's so cool. We're going to be able to raise all sorts of money to save our art school. But then the conclusion is the girl gets the guy. So obviously the goal wasn't about the girl getting the guy in the end. The goal was whatever competition they had to win. But the conclusion comes when you're tying up those loose ends at the end. Your umbrella. The umbrella, if you recall in the beginning I talked about, was that place under which the story happens. So that does include the physical place, the setting or settings, plural, that's fine. Most stories do have more than one setting. Your system is talking about the kind of the red tape area under which the story takes place. So this could be the government that this community is, that your story takes place under, and especially in a story like Hunger Games, 1984. That system, very, very important to the story. It could also be your workplace. There is a certain set of rules that exist within that system. So it's really defining that system. Even within a family, there are certain rules, certain ways of doing things that exist. If any of you ever watched that show Parenthood when it was on, there was a very specific system in place when you were a part of that family. All of those siblings needed to be connected. There was a system of honor of marriage within that show. There was a system of taking care of one another, even sometimes at a self-sacrificing cost. There were certain rules as a part of that family system. What are the rules of your family system? The network goes beyond that individual main character's systems. The network is the community that somebody belongs to on a larger scale. So yes, you might have the system of your own company, but the network might be that business industry. You might have the system of your family, but your family belongs to a certain town. So network is going to take you beyond system. Again, all of these things have their own sets of rules, and because of that, they affect the umbrella under which your story takes place. Last, but very much not least, is that junk. That junk that you identified. You might have just made a list of problems. I want you to subcategorize that junk into outer conflict and inner conflict. Understanding the difference between outer conflict and inner conflict is pretty intuitive. Outer conflict is any kind of a conflict that is happening outside of the control of the character. Therefore, if it's a storm that's preventing that person from getting somewhere, that's an outer conflict. If there's another person preventing that person, your main character, from achieving their goal, that's an outer conflict. It's all outside of the control of the main character. Inner conflict is anything that prevents the achievement of the event or goal that comes from inside the main character. You have to climb a mountain and you fear heights. That's an internal conflict. You have a romance story, but the person has been hurt before and does not want to put themselves out there. That's an internal conflict. So once again, just like you've done in all of your other categories from the jump categories, take what you've identified as those pieces and break it down into one of these 12 story blocks. Now, what do you do with those story building blocks? That's where it gets interesting.
So essentially what I have is, let's say I've got all of my different story elements. I've got a villain spell, I've got a storm, I've got this tribe of wizards that are part of my story. Maybe I've got, this girl Marianne, she just discovers that she's part of this tribe of wizards and she needs to accomplish some kind of a wizarding goal. But in order to do so, if she had to become successful as a wizard, she might end up leaving her family, and she's a little bit afraid of that. So she's got a little bit of a fear of success going on here. And there's another boy, of course, in the story because, we're going to make it a young adult story, so there's a love. And ultimately, when she kisses him, she gets the strength to get past all of this and succeed in the end. So I've created all of these elements. When I've written them down in my lists, I might have 30, 40 things written down, little bits and pieces, small reveals about my character that might have to come into play. All those different things are going to be a part of my storyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all those different pieces that I identified from all of the other lessons we did this week, the character drop-in stuff and identifying all of the jump from your writing from art outline. And I'm going to put them in order. I'm going to see that we meet the tribe of wizards, and they tell Marianne that she's a wizard. While she's there in her childhood home, and she realizes that she has to pass through a storm, but then she falls under the spell of a villain, and we see that she's afraid of success, but ultimately she has this kiss that brings her strength and sees her through.
We're going to talk a little bit about this. This is not a real story. This is a really, really extremely truncated version. Let's talk though about this magic moment, a kiss brings her strength. Because I promised you I was going to give you a little bit more about a magic moment. When people hear magic moment, they're often going automatically to that place of a wizarding world, of a sci-fi world, of spells and potions and fairies and all sorts of supernatural type of magic. Those are magic moments, and that's great. They're fun to put into stories. They're exciting to write. But in reality, when I'm talking about a magic moment in your book, it does not have to include supernatural magic at all. A magic moment is just that moment when you reach out from the pages of your book to emotionally connect to your reader. So a magic moment can be a culmination of events that lead you to say, yes, I feel some success. This is awesome. That can be a magic moment as well. Babe Ruth pointing where he's going to aim his home run. That's a magic moment as well. Washington crossing the Delaware at night with his soldiers. That's a magic moment. So yes, expecto patronum is magic, but so are all sorts of things that are not supernatural at all. That's our magic moment. In this case, I have a magic moment called a kiss brings strength to succeed. So when I look at this, I say, okay, all these different colors mean something. So these different colors are referring to the different types of story building blocks that are in place here. So the tribe of wizards is actually, it's part of the system, and it is also part of the umbrella. So it's an umbrella, it's a system. Marianne, she's my main character. She's the main character. That's part of the players. Childhood home, also part of the system. This is part of a setting. Notice that this is the same color as this because they're both part of the system. So the storm, this is some junk. The villain spell, this is some junk. The fear of success is some junk. I did that one a different color because I think inner conflict and outer conflict are very different. Why is this important to have different colors, shapes, and sizes of your Post-its if you use this approach? It's so that when I look at this, I go, does this make sense for my reader? Well, guess what? I have 3 pieces of junk in a row. I've got storm, villain spell, fear of success. This is way too much to throw at my reader at once. So I actually need to take one of these and I'm going to shift it around. So, we're going to say Marianne, that we meet the tribe of wizards and it's Marianne. Let's learn about her fear of success way back here instead. So that's kind of one of the things that I like to do when I use all sorts of different colors of Post-its, shapes, sizes, whatever. And I like to actually have each subsection into colors, and I'll have different colors for under the JUMP sections. Mix it up however you like. There's no need to go old school if you are doing your story building. When you're creating your storyboard, yes, you can break it down in an old-fashioned way. I actually like that method a lot, but let's be honest, most of us are working pretty digitally today. There are a couple of great tools that I'm going to recommend. One, right there on your own computer, something that most people have, is Microsoft Excel. If you don't have Microsoft Excel, you can even go to Google Sheets. That one is totally free, and you can use that online. It doesn't have all of the same tools that Microsoft Excel has, but it's pretty close. So go ahead and try that out. You can build some flowcharts in there. Think about that color coding so that you can mix up your storyboard. You really want to have a variety. You don't want to jump all the conflict and then all of the umbrella. You want to mix it up to create a nice, interesting storyline for your reader. Second is you can also use Google Keep. Google Keep is awesome. You're going to be able to go online. It's all right there. You can save your online references. You can save the things that you create. You can do some of your idea stuff right there on Google Keep. Color code it. You can file it all sorts of different ways. You can create your own flowcharts using Google Keep. So those are a couple of the ways that you can organize your storyboard. It's very important. There's a twofold reason for trying to create a storyboard. One, when you've color coded it like this, you're going to have that opportunity to move things around. As you'll see in the second week, there are several different building methods. So even after you've created your storyboard, you might decide, hey, in reality, this might actually make a little more sense over here. And so you might actually physically move a piece of your story to happen later in the book or earlier in the book. So that's part of your storyboarding assignment. The second reason that you want to have it all mixed up like this goes back to that non-linear writing. You want your writing to be able to constantly be engaging for you as the creator. And so when you're looking at a full storyboard, there might be days that you're like, you know what? I don't have the energy, either emotionally or physically, to write this action scene right now. Or you know what? I'm really driven to create this finale right now. Guess what? Non-linear writing allows you to do that. You can hop around that storyboard. You can pull off that post-it from your storyboard and decide right then and there, that's the piece I'm going to write today. I want to write this character piece today. I want to write this inner conflict piece today. I want to write about the storm today, the outer conflict. It's up to you as the writer to move around within your storyboard and create as you are feeling moved to create. This piece is the center of your entire project. So have yourself a great storyboard. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy creating your book in a month.